I'm Chesta from KD Unpaid Classes, and we're gonna start the chapter which is the sexual reproduction in the flowering plant. And for starting this, we have to study what is sexual reproduction. The sexual reproduction have the condition that we need two opposite gender, which is the male and female, and those male and female should produce male and female gamete, and those male and female gamete that are produced by the transfer of the gametes take place in the sexual reproduction of the flowering plant is called as the pollination. And after the process of the pollination is the fertilization process which the offspring is formed, and due to this it have the variation in the sexual reproduction. There is not a variation in the asexual reproduction. The site of the sexual reproduction in the flowering plant is the flower, and how lucky we are that plant could reproduce sexually. And the large myriads of flower or groups of flower we have gaze at, look at on their pleasant smell or the rich bright colors are the aiding tools to the sexual reproduction. And we could definitely say that all the flowering plant does the sexual reproduction, and they does not exist for ourselves only, but the purpose of it, but the purpose of doing the end products and purpose of doing the end products of the fruit and seed which is come from the ovary and the ovule. And in this chapter, we're going to study the morphology, structure, and how sexual reproduction in the flowering plant occur. So we could see that there is a diversity in the adaptations in the flowering plant and the on the floral parts, which is the inflorescence, the cluster of flower and the branches and floral parts, just to do the purpose of the end product, the fruit and seed. And in this chapter, we're going to study the flower, which is a fascinating and a reproductive organ, which is definitely have an intimate relationship with the human beings, with which means it would the objects of the ornamental, social, and cultural, religious value. And the flower are something very important to convey the important human feelings, which is the love, affection, grief, happiness, and mourning, which is the death of loved one. The floriculture is the cultivation of flowering plant. For a biologist, they are morphological and embryological marvel, which is a wonder to the world and site of sexual reproduction. The flower are the two types, which is the accessory and reproductive organ. The accessory organs are the accessory organ are the calyx and corolla, and the reproductive organ are the gynoecium and endoecium. And then is the structure of the flower, which is the last part, the stalk and pedicle. Pedicle is the stalk of an inflorescence, which is the cluster of flower, and the next part, the peduncle, is the stalk of an individual flower. And then on is the part of the calyx, which is a group of sepals, which is called as the green colored, and the petals, which is a group of petal called as the corolla, which is colored. And after the part of the gynoecium, which is a female reproductive system, have the stigma, style, and ovary. The stigma is a landing platform for the pollen grain, and style is actually a long cylindrical tube that connects the stigma and the ovary. The ovary is a basal bulge part. And then on is the androecium, which is a female male reproductive system, which consists of the anther and the filament. The anther is actually the bilobe structure, and the filament is which is connected to the three part, the thalamus, and the second part, which is the petal, which is called as the epipetalus in the scientific way. And we could say the example of it is the brinjal, and the next example of it is the lily, which is the part of the perianth, which is called as the tepal, which is called as the tepal. Now the next part, the events in the sexual reproduction in the flowering plant is the pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization. The pre-fertilization part consists of the gametogenesis, which is the macro and microgenesis, and the after part is the fertilization, and the gamete transfer takes place by the process of the pollination, and the post-fertilization forms the embryo, fruit, seed, and endosperm. The pre-fertilization part takes place how flower is formed. The flower is formed by the two parts, which have the shoot apical meristem and the root apical meristem. The shoot apical meristem consists to grow the root system, and the shoot apical meristem consists to grow the shoot system. And we could say the modified itself to from the floral meristem that does the structure and hormonal changes. The hormonal changes could be auxin and ethylene. Those auxin and ethylene could be formed by the it helps to grow the make all the parts of the floral primordia or initials of the floral parts. And after that it forms the buds, which is bear by the inflorescence, which is a cluster of flower in the branches that would decide on which variation the racemose or cymose that would take place. And after that is the process of the bud which forms. It increases the type of hormone called the cytokine, which does the cytokinesis, the cell division. And after that is the process of the stamen, which we could say that as stamen contains of the two part, which is the anther and the filament. Anther is bilobe, and one lobe, it's one lobe contain two theca, which is sac-like structure, and its two lobe contain four theca, which is we could call as a tetrathecus. And the filament is consists of the three part that we have studied earlier. Now the next part of it is these how the 10 flowers we have taken of the different species and pick out their stamen. You would definitely see that there are different in range and shape and size and number and length of the stamen, which is the in the different species. The example of it is the salvia and the mustard. If you do the transverse section of the anther, you would definitely see that anther is bilobe and tetragonal in structure, which is four-sided, and it have the line of descent and longitudinal groove that is along the lengthwise of the anther. So it would definitely cut out the anther. You separate out the two theca or the pollen sac to release the pollen grain, which is the dehiscence or dehydration of the pollen grains that would take place. And after that is the process of the when an anther is young, you could say the sac-like structure is called as the theca because it have the sporogenous tissue, which is the compactly packed homogeneous cells or the sporogenous cells that have produced the spores, which in the sac-like structure have the microspore that are called as the microsporingia. And when the microspores are actually separate out to form the pollen grain, then this pollen grain we could say its sac-like structure is called as the pollen sac when it have the pollen grains. Now the structure of the microsporangium is called. Now the structure of the microsporangium we could say the anther is bilobed and tetragonal, and a microspore is produced by the sporogenous cells or the homogeneous cells of the sporogenous tissue. So we could definitely say it have the its one lobe contain the two microsporangia, and it have the four microsporangia. The microsporangium, which is singular, we have talked about, is circular in outline. The outer layer is the epidermis, endothelium, and middle layer, which is actually helping the protection and dehiscence of the anther to release the pollen grains. And secondly, the innermost layer, which is called as the tapetum. This would help in the it will have the dense cytoplasm and it is multinucleated. Why it is binucleated? The tapetal cell are binucleated because the cell does this karyokinesis, which is the cell division, not the cytokinesis, and then on it helps to give the nourishment to the developing embryo. The sporogenous tissue present in the center of the microsporangium, which is the part of the which is the part it have the compactly packed homogeneous cells or the sporogenous cells. So each cell is working as a potential pollen grain, or each cell is working as a pollen mother cell or the MMC, which is the microspore mother cell diploid. What is a microsporogenesis? The process of formation of microspore from the microspore mother cell of the sporogenous tissue through the meiosis. We could say is the called as the microsporogenesis, where the sporogenous tissue which is diploid does the modify itself to form the MMC, which is diploid, and does the meiosis and form the microspore tetrad that is connected by the Kellogg enzyme. And when the anther got mature and when the anther got mature and dehydrate itself from the pollen grain that have releases out. The pollen grain we could say it's a male gametophyte, not a male gamete, and it is spherical in shape, size of about 2 to 50 micrometer. And we could say the pollen have a outer layer which is called as the exine, which is responsible for the definitely the size, shape, and color and design of the pollen grain. And exine is a discontinuous layer which is made of the sporopollen, which is a hard layer. The sporopollen we could say is made up of a resistant organic material that cannot be degraded by any enzyme, the strong alkali or the acid. And the strong alkali or the acid, or we could say the sporopollen is there. You could preserve it as a fossil to protect it for the many years for the pollen grain. And the germ pore is a small prominent pore that would help in the germination and the where the pollen tube grows from. And next part is the intine, which is the thin continuous layer and which is made up of the cellulose and pectin. And the and it is have the plasma membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of the pollen grain. And when it matures, it have the vegetative cell and the generative cell. The vegetative cell we could say have the irregular nucleus and it have the food reserve. The generative cell have the prominent nucleus and it does the mitosis to form the two male gametes. Then is the process of the 60% of the angiosperm have the two cell stage, which is actually called as the two cell stage because the pollen grain of the generative cell does the mitosis to form the two male gametes after the pollen grain is shedded in the pollen tube growth. And secondly, the three cell stage take place in the 40% of the species of the angiosperm, in which we could say the two cells in the three cell stage take place, which is the pollen gel of the pollen grain of the generative cell does the mitosis before the shedding in the anther. So already in the pollen tube growth, it have the two pollen grains. Then is the part of the pollen grain causes some allergy in someone, like the you could say the pollen grain causes some allergy and some long term respiratory problems like the asthma and the bronchitis. Like in the India, the parthenium, the carrot grass that have contaminated or came as an impurity with the imported wheat, so it become ubiquitous and causes pollen allergy. And the pollen grain is rich in nutrient seen by the western countries, so they take it as a food supplement like the tablets, the bee pollen tablets taken by in the England, and to increase the efficiency of the athletes and the race horses. process. And the next part is the pollen viability, is the is that time period up to which the pollen can germinate itself or do the fertilization or the sexual reproduction could occur. There is some extent depend on the temperature and the humidity. And the next part, the pollen grain, we could say, is definitely does it the viability of some like the wheat and rice, the viability loses in just 30 minutes, not for a day. And for some member, the rosaceae or leguminaceae and the solanaceae, it up to go for the months. And for this, the pollen banks are there. The pollen banks, actually you have to store the pollen grains of the different species in the pollen banks. In the cryopreservation, as is called as, in the liquid nitrogen, which is called as the 196 degrees Celsius. So you could preserve it for the many years that we have taken for the sperm bank or the seed bank for ourselves. Now the second part of it is the pistil, which is consist of the stigma, style, ovary, placenta, and the ovule. The stigma is the landing platform for the pollen grain, and the style, which is a long cylindrical tube that connects the stigma in the ovary. The ovary is a basal bulge part, and the next part is the placenta, which is a flat cushion-like structure in the end of the ovary. And the space or interstitial space we could see in the ovary is the ovarian cavity. And the ovule that have arises from the placenta, the different shape of the ovule, we could say, the different shape of the ovule is the anatropous ovule, we have studied for our conveniency. Then on is the next part, which is the ovule of the different species, on the into different species is variable in the shape and size. And when the gynoecium or the female reproductive system is consist of the one pistil, we could say it is called as the monocarpillary. When it have the one or more pistil, that is called as the multicarpillary. When it is free, it is called as the apocarpus. When it is fused, it is called as the syncarpus. The fused one is syncarpus, example is pepper or opium. And the apocarpus is the example of the Michaelia. Now the next part of it is the after the pistil is the structure of the anatropous ovule, which is have the funicle, which is a long cylindrical stalk. It's a long stalk that connects the placenta and the body of the ovule, and that is the hilum, that is a main junction to connect the funicle and the body of the ovule. And then is the part of the outer and inner integument. The inner integument, we could say, is the one or two protective covering that protect the nucleus of the ovary of the ovule. And the outer and inner integument after the ovule is fertilized is called as the testa integument. And now the next part of it is the nucellus. It have the mass of nuclear cell that actually reserve the foods. Now the nuclear cells, now the part of the megasporogenesis take place, which is the process of formation of megaspore from the singular megaspore mother cell that is derived from the that is comes from the nuclear cell of the micropylarend. Does the meiosis, which forms the four megaspore. What happened? The nuclear cell of the micropylarend only modified itself to form the single megaspore mother cell, does the meiosis, and from the four megaspore, and the three megaspore of the have degenerated of the micropylarend, and one functional megaspore of the chalazoland actually functional out. And what it does is the monosporic development, where the one functional megaspore does the formation of the embryo sac, which is a female gametophyte, and after that is the process of free nuclear division. It does it, which form the 2, 4, and 8 nucleated embryo sac. And after that is the 7-celled 8 nucleated embryo sac is formed, where each cell actually each nucleus have formed the cell wall, and each cells are formed, which have the antipodal cell, egg apparatus, which consists of the synergids and egg cell, and the central cell, which have the two polar nuclei. So the part have taken place. We could say the free nuclear division is the site where the cytokinesis have only take place. The karyokinesis have only take place, which is the nuclear division, and the cytokinesis could be cellularization, could be developed partially, completely, or not be. In some cases, or in some different species. Now then it is the part of the pollination. Now why pollination have occurred? The pollination have occurred because the male and female gametophyte or male and female gamete are both non-motile. So to bring about the fertilization and do the sexual reproduction in the flowering plant, that is why it is occurred, and the male gamete have transfer it to by the process of the external agent we have taken. So there are different kind of pollination we have taken. The depend on the source of which pollen grain coming from the coming from to the stigma of pistil. The pollination is the transfer of the pollen grain of anther to the stigma of pistil of flower. The orthogamy is actually the transfer of the pollen grain of the anther to the stigma of pistil of flower within a same flower. So it is called as the self pollination within a same flower. Now the condition for it, because the autogamy is rare. The first part of it, why the pollination, the autogamy is rare, because the you have to see that male and female, both the reproductive organ should mature at the same time, or the synchrony is maintained. And secondly, the close association between the anther and the pistil should take place. And that is why the autogamy is rare. And we could say the example of is the pea. And Second of it is the geitonogamy, which is the transfer of the pollen grain of anther to the stigma of pistil of another flower of another plant of same plant. So we could say genetically it's a self pollination, and functionally is a cross pollination. The example we could say the next part is the xenogamy, which is the transfer of the pollen grain of anther to the stigma of pistil of another flower of another plant, which is the functionally and genetically is a cross pollination. Example is the sunflower. Now, what are the parts of the two types of flower have taken place? The cleistogamy, cleistogamous flower and the chasmogamous flower. The chasmogamous flower are the open and exposed. The cleistogamous flower, we could say, is they are always closed and they are not exposed. They have the invariant autogamy, which means they only do the self pollination. The chasmogamous flower, they could do any type of pollination. Then on the cleistogamous gammas flower have the example of the viola and the camelina, and we could say the next part of it is the agents of the pollination. The agents of the pollination are of the two type, which is the abiotic and biotic. The abiotic agent and the biotic agent, so we could say the definitely the majority one is used in the biotic agent and the abiotic agent. And the abiotic agent have the two part, which is the wind and water. The wind pollination and the water pollination. The wind pollination, which is the conditions for this or the characteristic, you could say the stamen should be well exposed, and secondly the pollen grain should be lightweight and non-sticky so they could easily disperse into the wind current. And the number of pollen grain that have released in both abiotic agent of the water and wind, they have releases in the large amount to compensate the loss of the pollen grains. And after part of it, the after part of it is the part of the stigma should be well exposed and the feathery, so they could easily catch out or trap the pollen grains that have dispersed out in the wind currents. And example of it is the corn cob, the tassels that act as a stigma in style, and the last part of it is the pollen grain. The last part of it is actually it contains the one ovule, because example of the grass family, because to increase the probability to do the pollination or does the sexual reproduction for forming an product. And then last part of it is the water pollination. The water pollination, which is called as the hydrophily, which is very rare. Only 30 genera of the monocot does it. And the second part of it is the major water is acting as a mode of transport for the male gametes, which is the part of the bryophytes, pteridophytes, and the algae, which is a lower group plants, does it. And the next part of it is the fresh water, which have the Vallisneria and the Vallisneria had the hydrilla. The Vallisneria, the female part, is actually inside the water, and the pollen dispersed into the water, so they achieve the pollination in the water. And second is the sea grasses or the zoosteria in the marine water. So they actually transfer of the pollen grain in the water. So we could say the pollen grain that of the water pollination, we could say, have the mucilaginous covering. So they could be prevented from wetting. And then on is the part of after the agents of the pollination, which is abiotic one, we have completed the biotic one. The second is the animal and the insect. The insect one is called as the entomophily, and the animal one, we could say, is the entomophily. And the next part is the majority of one is used in the insect pollination, then the animal pollination. And the second part of it, the major of the use is the animal pollination, is the bees, wasps, and sunbird, hummingbird, and bats are the common. And the large animal like the primates that have the menstrual cycle does it, which is the rodent, garden lizard, and the reptiles. And the insect pollination, is the dominant biotic agent, which is the bees. And for the insect pollination, the flower should be large, colorful, good in fragrance, and present rich bright colors, rich in nectar, which all the characteristics it should have. The small, if the flower is small, they should have a cluster as an inflorescence. And secondly, for the animal pollination, they should have the fragrance and rich bright colors, and always give a floral reward, which is the nectar and the pollen grains. The next part of it, the animal pollination, where the animal came in contact with the pollen grain that have stick to it and coats its body and transfer it to the stigma of pistil. That is how they achieve the animal pollination. And for some species, the animal actually does give the safe place to lay the eggs, which is the example of the Amorphophallus, which is a 6 feet flower. And secondly is the example of the species of moth, which is a symbiotic association of the species of moth and the plant yucca, where in the ovarian cavity the species of moth lay its egg, and after that in return it actually achieved the pollination or animal pollination by the species of moth, and the larva came out as the seeds start developing. Now And the next part of it is the outbreeding devices. The outbreeding devices, the devices are the mechanism to actually break the autogamy or to overcome with the inbreeding depression, which is a repetitive self-pollination actually forms the part where the offspring or the next generation become low fertile or low in survival. And the next part of it is the to break the autogamy, where the new pollen grain of the different species of the another plant of the another flower of another plant have taken for actually does the variation. Now, the first part of it is the decogamy, which is called as the male and female reproductive part should not be in the synchrony. And the secondly, we could say is the part of the heterostyli, which is they should be not in the closed association, the anther and the pistil. And the third part of it, the self incompatibility, which is the example of the self incompatibility is the example of the it have the genetic mechanism or the adaptations in the pistil, so it would not allow the growth of the pollen grain of the different of the same self pollen grain, so it will prevent the pollen tube growth or the pollen pistil interaction. And say thirdly is the part of the production of the unisexual flower by the emasculation and the bagging, which is the part of the where it forms the different male and female flower. And the next part of it is the which is actually a part of the two part, which is the monoecious and the dioecious of the flowering plant. The monoecious is the example of the castor maize. In the unisexual flower, the male and female flower are present at the same plant, and in the dioecious, the male and female flower at the unisexual actually present at the different flowers. So it is the example of the papaya. Now then it's the example of the pollen pistil interaction. We could definitely see the pollination does not depend on the right type of pollen or the compatible one reached due to the stigma of pistil of flower. You could say the pistil got this ability to recognize the right or wrong type of pollen. If the right type of pollen, the compatible one reaches to it, it would eventually do the pollen germination and the pollen pistil interaction. But secondly, if the wrong type of pollen reaches it, it would prevent the pollen tube growth or in there. So we could definitely say it does by the continuous dialogue or the chemical interaction that have taken between the pollen grain that releases some component, that is how it get the ability to recognize the wrong or right type of pollen. The next part of is the pollen pistil interaction, that is an event that have take place from the pollen germination to the pollen tube growth to the ovule. So which is the jump or have releases out in the to the tissue of the stigma and style, where the compatible one reaches there. The pollen germination and the pollen pistil interaction takes place, which is the post pollination event. The fertilization takes place, which is the part of the double fertilization. The 60% have the two male gametes in the pollen tube, and the 40% they have already in the two male gametes are present in there. Now the next part of it is the double fertilization. It is a characteristic event of the flowering plant, and after that is the fusion. The two fusion have taken place because of the two male gametes, which is the triple fusion and the syngamy. What is it in the egg cell or the which is a haploid egg cell? Actually, the male gamete reaches to there by the filiform apparatus that have reaches to the filiform apparatus actually guides the pollen tube to enter into the one of the synergids, and it enter the one of the synergids. The one male gamete fuses with the egg cell, which is called as the syngamy, produces the zygote. And secondly, the one male gamete actually reaches to the central cell of the two polar nuclei, which is called as the pen, the primary endosperm nucleus. And the central cell forms into the peg, which is the primary endosperm cell. So the next part of it, the double fertilization, we could say the first male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form a zygote, which would form the mature embryo. And secondly, in the triple fusion, which have form the triploid, the two polar nuclei and the haploid male gamete have formed the pen and peg. Now, after the double fertilization, the synergids and the antipodal cell have degenerated out, and after that is the process of the we could say is the process of post fertilization event would take place, which is the ovule converts into a seed, the ovary converts into a flower, and the double fertilization part, actually the pen does the mitosis to form the triploid endosperm cell, which each cell forms actually give the nutrient to the developing embryo. And why you could say the endosperm development actually precedes the embryo development, because it's definitely we could say it give the nutrient to the developing embryo, that is why. And secondly, the pen does the free nuclear division, which is a several mitosis by the karyokinesis and not the cytokinesis have take place. So it forms the free nuclei, which is called as the free nuclear endosperm. And the secondly, the cellularization would take place partially, completely, or not be. The example of the not be we could say is the cereal, and secondly, the partially could be take place in the completely of the example of the coconut, which have the cellular endosperm, where each nucleus or the free nuclei have reduces out and forms a cell wall and forms the cell wall. So it is called as the cellular endosperm. Now, the second example of it is the coconut. The free nuclear endosperm is the tender coconut water, and the free nuclear division, which have taken by the cellularization, we could say the cellular endosperm or type of it is the white kernel, and the next part of it is the flower have the and then next part of it is the cellular endosperm type, which doesn't have the free nuclear stage. The nuclear endosperm type have the free nuclear stage, where it does the ideal cellularization, which is the cell wall formed in there, and there is no free nuclear stage takes place, which is the example of the datura. The flower have the two part, the monocot and the dicot, which is the monocot or dicot developing embryo actually take the nutrient of the endosperm in the different ways. The in the monocot it actually partially taken out the endosperm, so the mature seed have the endosperm. And secondly, we could say the next part, which is the dicot, it's completely taken the endosperm, which is the developing embryo could form. The example of the monocot is the wheat, maize, rice, barley, and the castor. And the example of the dicot is the example is the part of the pea, groundnut, and beans. And the next part of it is the embryo development takes place in the micropylar end, which is called as the embryo development. It actually cannot be preceded by the endosperm development. When it is completely formed, the embryo development or the zygote mitosis would take place after when it is completely formed to give the nutrient to the developing embryo. And the next part is the zygote does the mitosis to form the two cell state, four cell stage, and the pro-embryo, globular embryo. The heart-shaped embryo actually take place in the dicotyledon stage, and after that is the process the mature embryo is formed. The dicot embryo and the monocot embryo shape is very different. The dicot embryo, the root cap actually goes through the embryonal axis, and upper part of it is the epicotyl, and downward part is the hypocotyl. The epicotyl terminates the radicle, which is a which have the shoot tip, which is called as where the shoot system would grow, and the radicle which have the root tip which grow the root system. And then on the after part of it is have the dicotyledon axis too. The next part of it is the monocot that have the scutellum, which have the one cotyledon as in the grass family. And secondly, it have the embryonal axis which is vertically, and after part is the epicotyl have the shoot apex and floral primordia and hollow folio structure, which is a leaf like structure. So we could say they have the plumule. And the next part of it, the hypocotyl in the radicle and the root cap, which is enclosed by the undifferentiated sheet, which is called as the coloriza. The next part of it is the example of the monocot and dicot have completed out. What we could say is definitely after the embryo development takes place is the seed. The seed is a fertilized ovule, or we could say it is the part where the fertilization have taken place. And seed have the three parts, which is the seed coat and cotyledon, which is a thick and have the food reserved, and the embryo access for the epicotyl and the hypocotyl termination. And secondly is the part of the integument that are fertilized, so the outer and the inner integument from the testa and the tegment. And the next part of it is after the integuments is the we could say the next part of it, the micropyle, which has a small pore, is a prominent one to facilitate the oxygen and the other things to for the seed germination. And the next part of it, the seed which is forming actually it have the dormancy periods, the period of time up to which seed is inactive, or the developing embryo could not form as you could say the embryo could not be developed. So it happens in the water content have loses, the metabolic changes have stopped, and you could say the 10 to 50% of moisture by mass have reduces if the habitat is not given to it. The seed viability is that period of time up to which the seed could germinate itself, or the fertilization would take place. The after part of the seed viability in different species, we could say, is the in the lupine articus, which have excavated from the Arctic tundra. And the second example of is the date palm, which is the Phoenix reptilifera that have excavated from the King Herod's palace. And the two parts of it, the 10,000 of the dormancy in the first one, and the 2,000 of the dormancy in the second one, which is the largest period of time that have taken for the dormancy and the seed viability. Now this next part of it is the part of the how the seed have are the two type, the albuminous and the X albuminous. The albuminous are the endospermic type, which is the monocot that have the reduced endosperm in there, which is partially consumed by the developing embryo, which is the example of the wheat, rice, barley, and castor, which is a dicot, but still form an endospermic seed. And secondly is the part of the dicot, which is the exogenous, which is the non-endospermic seed have formed. In there the endosperm does not completely get taken by the developing embryo for forming a mature embryo, and the mature seed doesn't have an endosperm. So the next part of it is the example of it, which is the pea, beans, and all dicot seeds have formed. The orchid is the exception, that is a monocot producer non-endospermic seed. That the perispermic seed, which have the remain of nucellus, which is the example of the black coffee or the wheat or the black pepper. Now next example of it, the ovaries have formed in the fruit. The fruit follows the two type, the pericarp. The pericarp actually depends on it could be differentiated or fused in the two part, the fleshy and the dry fruit. The fleshy, it is differentiated in the mesocarp, endocarp, and it in the it is the example of the endocarp which have the seed. And the next part, the pericarp, it is fused in the dry fruit, which is the example of the groundnut, mustard, and peanut. And it is the fleshy fruit, the guava, orange, I have taken, which I have differentiated in the outer, middle, and inner layer. Now the next part of it is the true fruit, false fruit, and the parthenocarpic fruit. The true fruit, the fruit comes actually contributed by the formation of the ovary, and the fruit formed by the contribution of the thalamus, which is the false fruit, which is the example of the apple and the strawberry. The next example of it is the parthenocarpic, by the application of the growth hormone that have induces the example of the banana, which is the fruit formation without fertilization takes place. The next part of it is the after that is the part of the good advantages of the seed. The seed could germination could be take place without water. All the process have taken without water, just the seed germination of the viability takes place with the water. And seed could be grow anywhere with the habitat. If the seedling is formed, it have the food reserve for the survival, and it have the dehydration or dormancy period to actually raise the crop for the next year, or could be used as a food for the next for the throughout the year, you could say. And secondly, the example of this have taken place. The apomixis is the part, the seed fertilization with the seed formation without fertilization that mimics the sexual reproduction, and it is a asexual reproduction. The nucleus cell of the micropylar and modified itself to form the MMC. Instead of doing the meiosis, it does the mitosis to form the diploid egg cell and the diploid seed. And after that is the process in the Asteraceae and the grasses. So we could say to use in the hybrid seed industry, which is does not needed another hybrid plant which is expensive. And secondly, it doesn't have the gene combination or the variation to form the offspring. And thirdly, it doesn't have the chromosomal segregation or the character segregate, which is from the diploid cell. And secondly is the part of the polyembryony, which is the more than one ovule have more than one embryo have formed in the ovule, which is in the part of the multiple, you could say, nuclear cell modified to form the MMC and protrude inside the embryo cell. So we could say one or more embryos formed in the ovule, which is the example of the citrus and the orange. And the next part of it, the fruit that have tiny seeds or multiple tiny seeds, is the example of the parasitic, which is the Orobanche and striga.